What's up, guys? Today I'm doing a game review for the Immortal game from Adolf Anderssen. I got the game from this book, Serious Fun with Chess. It's kind of a chess book, but not really about analyzing positions, just about history, grandmasters, and things like that. And I got it from this part of the book in the 22nd chapter, The Immortal Game, Anderssen versus an Austrian player from 1851. And the rest of the book is about the first chess magazine. It has colored pictures of the first chess book and of all of the different interesting stuff about chess. So I hope you like this video. Let's get started.
Okay, so Anderssen starts the game with e4. Black responds with e5. And now the king's gambit, f4 comes. So you can already tell the eval bar doesn't like this, because the king's gambit is a pretty risky opening. You're opening your king here. If you're not careful, then the queen can somehow get in and try and attack your pawns on the king here. So normally you don't play this opening these days, but back then it was called the Romantic era of chess. This was a very popular opening. People like Paul Morphy and very strong players like that would play this because they would get very strong attacking positions. So f4, black takes on f4, and now bishop c4. These are the normal book moves. Again, we're gonna ignore the eval bar here. It doesn't like this opening, but of course back then everybody liked this opening. So you might be wondering, why not queen h4? Queen h4 is the move which black played. This is all still opening, so it's not exceptionally bad for white. King f1. If you don't know this opening, this may seem like a very dumb move, but I mean, before, what are you supposed to do to this check? You cannot play g3 because take, you cannot take back, you lose your rook. And king e2 is kind of an ugly move because king f1 is just the safest move. You can try and get your knight out, play something like king g1, h3, king h2 in the future, play something like that. And I mean, the point of this opening is to get a very strong attacking position in the end, even though your king is open. So king f1, and now b5 comes. b5 is already a mistake. Black somehow tried to sacrifice the pawn back and open his bishop, try and attack here on the king's side. But it's not such a good move because you're giving away a pawn for free and white takes it. And now instead of playing bishop b7, he plays knight f6. So now white is a little bit better. And now white plays knight f3. You can't take the pawn on e4 because your queen is hanging. So black has to do something about that and plays queen h6. So now queen h6 is still protecting the pawn like it was on h4. And now you have to somehow protect your pawn on e4. And your bishop looks kind of weird on b5 because it can be kicked pretty easily. Maybe not c6, but it looks like a strange square. It's like kind of overextended to the wrong side of the board. So d3 protects the pawn, puts a little bit of pressure on f4. So d3 was actually a mistake also. The computer preferred knight c3 and stuff like that. But I find d3 is an okay move. You have this pawn structure now, and you're putting pressure on this pawn and everything. So I don't see any problem with d3. So knight h5. Knight h5 is a move I really don't like because you're not developing anything. I mean, look at black's pieces. Only the queen and the knight are in the center of the board right now. Actually, the knight is on the rim, the queen is also on the rim, so black's pieces aren't really good right now. And this move, it's now your knight is glued to the pawn. It cannot really do anything. And he realizes that, and he plays knight h4. Knight h4 may look like a very strange move. The eval bar also doesn't like it. But the goal is to play knight f5. And if you play g6 or something like that, your pieces are just very strange, to be honest. Something like queen f3 is coming also. And you have discovered attacks like this, so I understand the point of knight h4, but I mean I say that you should just try to develop your pieces like knight c3 or something, and I guess the eval bar agrees. So now comes queen g5. It might look like you have a double attack here, and it pretty much is like that, but white just played knight f5 and blocked this attack here. And if you try and play something like g6, I'm pretty sure that you can just play something like knight d4 or something like that. So, his opponent played c6. I don't like this move. You might think I'm just saying that because of the eval bar, but c6, now you have this weird pawn structure. Okay, you're attacking the bishop, but you're not developing anything again. And now your bishop, which could have gone here to try and put some pressure on g2 and e4, now is completely blocked. So if you want to open up this bishop, you need to play stuff like c5, and it's way too slow, I find. So, and now also your d6 square is kind of getting weaker. And if you ever end up trading off the dark square bishop, then you really do not have a good position. So g4. G4 is a very interesting move. It's actually protected by the queen, but actually, you might be thinking you can play en passant. And for people who don't know what that is yet, it's when a pawn moves 2 squares forward, only when it's 2 squares forward, and there's a black pawn next to it, you can take it like this because a long time ago, white or the pawns could only move 1 square forward, and it couldn't jump 2 squares forward. And it's as if this pawn only went here, and that means you can just take it. But in this position, it would be a blunder because this bishop is actually pinning the pawn, and you could just take the queen. And of course, black sees that and doesn't take the pawn. It plays knight f6. So now you have a very nice knight on f5. And your king now has a little bit more space. And the queen is not getting in the king anymore because this knight is literally taking all of the squares away. So the queen actually, you might have noticed, only has 1 square left. I mean, right now it's attacking the g4 square, but after white protects it with rook g1, now the queen only has 1 square, and that is g6. And now, if black would play g6, h4 would be the move which wins the queen for black. Because now you took away that square with the pawn. This square is taken away by the knight. This square is taken away by the pawn. This is protected. And I'm attacking your queen. And look at this wall. This wall here is just completely shutting the queen out of the game. So notice that rook g1 actually, if you might have forgotten, that leaves the bishop here on b5 hanging. And this is the first sacrifice of the game. So black actually just takes the free bishop, but you might notice that's a mistake because of the eval bar. And also, if you saw, white plays h4 now. And now it's almost as if, after queen g6, which is forced, it's almost as if black is playing, it's as if white is up 6 points of material. Because, okay, black has the bishop now, but your queen is gone. It's out completely trapped. It cannot do anything. So it's as if you have a bishop for a queen. Because this queen cannot go anywhere. So h5, queen g5 is forced again, and queen f3. So you might be wondering, why can he not just move his knight away somewhere and open up these squares? And now white is losing because he doesn't have a bishop. But in chess, sometimes activity is more important than material. And what you see here is he played queen f3 because he wants to develop his bishop with a tempo, attacking the queen and winning a pawn back. And notice that black in all this time has not developed a single piece in I don't know how many moves. They only develop pieces are the knight and the queen. And these pieces are not doing anything. What is this knight doing? This knight is not helping black's position. And this queen is also not doing anything because it doesn't have any squares. So knight g8 is what black played to free up the queen's square on d8. But notice that now your knight is not developed anymore. And the queen only has one square now. And after the move bishop takes on f4, I like white's position more, even though I'm down material, because when you get stronger in chess, you realize that even back then when I was not so good in chess, I was thinking, oh my, I cannot lose this pawn. I have to protect it with everything I have. But after a while, you learn that you can sacrifice a pawn for compensation or for attack. And to be honest, I don't care. I wouldn't care about these 2 points of material, because what is black doing in this position right now? What is black doing? Nothing. All of these pieces are stuck on the back rank. They're not doing anything. So queen f6, not queen d8, because if you would have played queen d8 here, all of your pieces would be stuck on the back rank. That would be a very ugly position. Queen f6 isn't really better, but at least you're not completely stuck on the back rank. I mean, your pieces are all still there, but one queen still, and it also attacked b2. So now knight c3, developing, stopping the attack, attacking the pawn. And if b4, then comes knight d5, and these pieces are going to be way too strong. And if queen b2, then there's this 4 comes c7. So that's not possible to play. Bishop c5, now you're attacking g1. So we're going to ignore the eval bar because, I mean, if you turn around the board, okay, you might also be thinking, yes, this position is very nice for white. But if you play a few not completely accurate moves in this position, you'll let black get some development here, and you'll let black to somehow stop this position. So you actually have to be pretty careful that you don't let black develop. And what Anderssen saw is if he plays a move like rook g2, it's too slow. He's allowing black to play something like knight c6. Okay, that's maybe not a good move because of knight d5 or something. But he's allowing black to have another move, like knight e7 or something like that. And he doesn't want to give black those moves because you don't want to help your opponent. So he realizes that this bishop move is developing with, it seems as with the tempo, but actually he didn't want black to have the tempo. He didn't want black to be able to say that he has a tempo. And that's why he played knight d5 now. So you might be thinking, okay, so if you take the bishop, or then your queen's hanging, that makes sense. You're actually making a good move. But the b2 pawn is hanging, and now you're attacking 2 rooks at the same time. Okay, there's a fork here, but then if you take here everything, then I take your rook and I take your rook here. It's not so good. So actually the computer says that knight d5 wasn't as good because queen b2 is now played, and black only has 1 or 2 pieces on the board right now which are actually doing something. This bishop is actually not that bad. It's actually doing something. It's attacking the rook. It's taking some squares away from white's pieces. It's stopping d4 with the work of the queen and the bishop. But actually, Anderssen makes a huge mistake here. He played bishop d6, and you might think this looks like a complete blunder because you're hanging both rooks here. So also the computer says it's a complete draw now. So the problem with his move is Anderssen tried to play too well, I think. I sometimes also have that feeling. I think, oh my, I'm such a grandmaster and I can sacrifice my knight here. and then I end up losing the game because it made no sense. So I think that he was trying to sacrifice too much. And actually, if you look at what the computer says here, it says that if you play queen takes on a1, king e2, the second rook is being sacrificed. Then black plays queen b2 back. And then king d2 is the move. It's a super crazy line. The rook on g1 is hanging. It might look very strange, but Stockfish knows it better than us. So we definitely should listen to Stockfish. Bishop takes on g1 is a blunder. He shouldn't have taken the rook. He's getting now a little bit too greedy because actually when you look at this position, this is turning into a mating net actually. Black has only one square, which is this. So white now knew after bishop takes on g1 that he doesn't need his rook. I mean, he doesn't need his rooks to checkmate the black king. Black king only has one square. And if he manages to take that one square away, or makes the king move to that square and makes a check, then it's checkmate. So he has to try and block black's pieces from get like the queen somehow swinging back. I mean, these moves aren't possible, but somehow the pieces starting to protect each other, like knight c6, stopping this and stuff like that. But e5 is sacrificing another rook. But notice that this queen was protecting g7, and he already can tell that he's about to checkmate his opponent because he is blocking the protection on g7. And I mean, hey, look, queen takes on a1, I don't know, king e2. Now you're g7 pawn saying you need to go here and you have a checkmate soon somewhere here because all of the squares are taken. You just need one check and you win the game. Something like bishop c7. And e5 is a completely brilliant move. Maybe the computer says the black has some compensation. I don't know. For me, you could have resigned like 5 moves ago already. I mean, okay, he's literally +8 material, but he can't do anything. He literally cannot do anything. Like what is this what is this position? Like all of these pieces are just completely taking away all of the squares. It's a beautiful position. I mean, this is the most horrible position you can ever have. There's even a fork on c7, but he doesn't care about that because that doesn't lead to checkmate. Checkmate is, of course, more valuable than the rook in the corner. This knight is very important. This knight is probably worth like 7 points of material. And these pieces are all worth 0 points of material. They're all not doing anything at all. So I don't want to show you the position with black. It's the worst position you can have. Queen takes on a1. King e2. King e2 is the only move to get away from all of the checks. Because look, there are no checks here. You can try checking him like queen e1, but you hang your queen, so it's not ideal to hang your queen in chess. Knight a6. The eval bar says mate in 3. I'm switching the eval bar off. Mate in 3. Knight a6 is to try and stop stuff like knight c7 because knight c7 is very close to checkmate. And black is up 13 points of material. We're getting very close to the end of this game. Just so you know, white found the mate in 3. Knight takes on g7. Check. King d8 is forced. And now I want you to pause the video and find the move white played here to checkmate in 2 moves. So if you want to find a move, pause right now. So the move is queen f6. So what's the point of this move? The point of this move is he saw this king has no squares. It's completely sandwiched in between the bishop and the pawn. It cannot do anything. So how do you give a check to the king? You cannot play bishop c7 because black is good enough to have played knight a6. And you cannot play bishop e7 because this knight is protecting that. But how do you remove the defender? That this is a special type of tactic to kind of lure a piece to a square, which is bad for it. So this knight actually in this position, it's almost as if it's developed. It sounds crazy, but this knight is saving the king's life right now. This knight also, it might look, you might be like the guy who's saying, oh yeah, the knight on the rim is grim, black is completely losing. But this knight is also completely saving the king's life. Because these both knights, they're stopping the bishop. But white saw queen f6 check. And the king cannot move because the king is completely stuck. And this is, first of all, a check. So you're forced to take with the knight. But this knight was protecting e7. Well, after queen f3, not anymore. So you might be thinking, oh wait, but now I blundered, now I need to take here. No. Bishop e7 checkmate. So this game, you might think, oh wow, this is such a bad game. I'm reviewing the game now and seeing that they only played with 75% accuracy. I think you will never get a game like this in your whole career. You will never be able to play such a masterpiece, to be honest, because, okay, there were inaccuracies. Back then, in 1852, they didn't have chess computers. So for that time where they became GMs without the chess computer, this was an exceptional game. They had people in the audience had never seen a game like this before. And what's interesting is that this game was played in the first international chess tournament ever. It was in London, and the players, they actually were the best players in the world from that time because they had played tournaments in their home country, and they wanted to determine who was the best player in the world. And Anderssen, he won this game. He won this tournament. And back then, he won the first international tournament ever. And this was his best tournament ever because, I mean, if you play a game like this with queen f3 or queen f6, I think it's fair to say that that's your best game ever. And in case you want to find out where to find this game on chess.com, there is this function on the side where you can go onto news, and then you click on top players, and then you just search Adolf Anderssen, and you'll find this game on his profile because it's his Immortal game. So I hope you enjoyed this game analysis and found queen f6. If you found queen f6, good job. And I mean, queen f6 is probably like a 1700 rated puzzle. It's not super hard, but if you have to be still pretty smart to find that type of move because he sees that this knight is stopping e7. I mean, I already said it. So I hope you enjoyed this game review, and I'll see you in the next video.